Hi there, everybody. Reed here, conductor at Orchestra Farm. Back at the farm today. Gorgeous, overcast day. It poured last night. You can see a giant puddle here, one of the spots that I recently excavated. I'm gonna gently toss a chest freezer in there and have cold storage for the winter. You might think there's a lot of water in there. How's that gonna work? I'm gonna put some gravel in, and I got all the extra soil that I pulled out, so I'm gonna kind of wrap it around it. So it'll be above, below ground. We'll see how it goes. You gotta try some things. You gotta experiment sometimes. It's not always easy, but you know, you win, you fail. Brings me around to like comforts and conveniences. It's a cool day out, wearing this nice woolly, and I'm pretty comfortable. At the same time, it's not Hawaii or Costa Rica or any of the other lush sub and tropical places of the world. It's pretty temperate and cool here. And here's another little pocket pond I made, so that way we can turn this other raised area that I created into space with an arbor, so that way the little ones can have some shade, little ones being children, when it's blazing hot in the summer. Comforts, conveniences. We've changed a lot as a species over these last several generations. I'm fortunate enough I got to meet my great-grandparents over in Belgium and France, and I was only 3 at the time. I have a few little memories that I cherish from that. And they had a farm. I think that's one of the reasons why I like doing it. It makes me feel like I have connection with my ancestry. Well, they didn't have washing machines or dishwashers or any of the modern conveniences that we enjoy today. And frankly, I don't want to give that stuff up, if I'm honest about it. At the same time, just because they didn't have those conveniences, there was levels of feeling comfortable. And, there wasn't as much bureaucracy boiling over them at the time either. I personally don't think somebody else needs to dictate to me how I should be living my life. And I recognize that, hey, we all want to live a long, good life, but I'm more for quality over quantity. If I got to be on a dialysis machine like my own grandfather was for the last several years of my life, honestly, I'm not sure that's for me. All the more props to him for sticking around that little extra bit. But that doesn't seem comfortable. At the same time, he had to have a strong perseverance of character to do that. It wasn't comfortable, but he wanted to be alive, and so he took that mission on with the help of the family who was around to help bring him there and do all the things. And I ponder, with all of our current comforts and conveniences in life, is it actually serving us? Or are we in some ways becoming, let's say, weaker individuals in weaker societies? And I don't mean that from the context of oh, we're so strong. I mean that from the context of are we living good lives? I mean that from the context of, are we trading off things that are actually important to do and be in exchange for having what might seem like longer, better lives, more comforts? I'm not 100% sure. But I ask myself these questions pretty regularly, because at the end of my days, I want to have fewer regrets and more things to look back on that I feel good about my accomplishments, even if that is just sitting by this pond here and breathing in with the sunshine and the cloud forms, because it all goes so quick. You might think the average lifespan is a reasonable length of time, but on a galactic scale, on a universal time frame, from a long time perspective, this is so quick. We're not here that long. And what kind of marks are we leaving? What kind of world are we leaving for those next generations? These are things I think about pretty regularly, and influences a lot of the ways I live my life and how I choose to go about different things. I want my children to recognize that, like, I am, even in doing this kind of work, you know, I thankfully had a big machine. It wasn't actually a big, it was a tiny little excavator. But to help dig this stuff out, it is work. There is a challenge to it. And that I'm doing my best to enjoy myself while it's happening. That even though I want to have a nice warm house when it's the winter time, and so we've got enough firewood, thanks to all our friends for helping with that, that I also don't mind wearing a sweatshirt in my house. You know, it doesn't need to be a blazing sauna for me. Well, that's a gate that's open over here. Speaking of keeping things secure. And might as well go and see what's happening over on this side of the fence. Hey, other side of the fence. And so I ponder for you. What are you doing in your life that's, oh, interesting, comfortable or convenient that might be, you know, diminishing your joy that you can experience, diminishing the depth in your life. Like, I think it's important to every once in a while take a fast. Like, I've got a friend and he is let go of the insurance on his vehicle, so he's not actually driving it, and he's gotten rid of his phone plan, so he's not calling people up, because he wants to slow his life down. And I was like, oh, is this a long-term thing? He's like, no, I just need a break. I think we could all use a break at times, you know? It's 2021 now, and a lot of us had a big break last year, maybe even extended into this year. Maybe it's still happening, you know? What are those things that you took a break from did you actually find were good for you? You know, Facebook went down the other day. That was hilarious. I really enjoyed not checking that for some moments. Mostly to see if anyone's commented on my little video that I'm with you all with. At the same time, you know, I bet a lot of people's lives improved drastically because a lot of people are actually addicted to, you know, all the little points of like, oh, people are paying attention to me, and isn't this just wonderful? When it's actually also just like, are we doing anything that is really worthwhile on here that deserves to be checked out? I really gotta close this gate. Otherwise the deer will totally eat the greens that I've got in the ground, and I really want those greens for later on in this winter. Here's another piece of wood for that. Sometimes it's just a little piece of wood that keeps us from having all of our food eaten. Mind you, I have food at home, but that's beside the point. And so, all of this to say, how do you know you're having too much fun? Sometimes it's by trying out things that seem like they are not going to be any fun. Like, there were some years when I decided instead of driving a vehicle, I would ride a bicycle and take trains when I wanted to go really long distances, because seriously, I don't want to ride my bike through the prairie country of North America. I'm just not interested in that. Going by train is a much more lovely way to travel. A little bit more expensive, but hey, you pick your battles, people. So, but it gives me a great respect for driving my vehicles now. In that same way, I didn't have indoor plumbing for a long time. Now I've got hot water. I can take a shower basically whenever I want. And I've got deep appreciation for that. It's amazing to have hot water. In that same way, I have an indoor flushing toilet. To be honest, I could go back to a composting toilet. I prefer knowing that my little bits of earth that I'm creating are actually going back to nourish the different plants around me, rather than just sitting in a cell for who knows how long. But the convenience, I will give you, does have its bonus points. When it's cold outside and I don't want to walk over to the outhouse or whatever, it's pretty pleasant to just go use the bathroom. Anyway, with that, I'm Reed here at Orchestra Farm, conducting this beautiful symphony of life? Or is it conducting me? These are good questions to ask. I super appreciate all the people who are subscribing to this channel to hear more of these thoughts as they happen. Maybe you got some things you'd like me to speak to. I'd be happy to hear about that. Thanks for all the likes of this and all the comments that people are writing in. I love you guys so much. And remember, have too much fun.